Hello and welcome to Marketing Speak. I'm your host, Stefan Spencer, and today we have Simon Severino with us. Simon is the CEO of Strategy Sprints, the #1 results-based business coaching firm. His team of certified strategy sprint coaches does only one thing: double the revenue of SaaS, software as a service, and service businesses in 90 days, which we're going to be talking about. Simon, so great to have you on the show.
I'm so excited to be here. Hello, everybody. Hello, Stephen.
So let's start by just addressing this head on. What you do for your business is to help companies, entrepreneurs, double their revenue in 90 days. How the heck do you do that?
Yeah, it's not that hard, actually. If you are since 17 years in business consulting, you see some patterns and you see the quick wins and you know how things should generally work with each other. So operations, sales, and marketing need to work well together. And you have a lot of business experience, and I have. And when we see a company, we see immediately 2 or 3 things where this integration is not working. And so when we work intensively, and we work only one-to-one, so we don't do group coachings, we don't have training programs, only one-to-one, very intense for a full quarter. And so we go deep. We help them improve their offering, make it more relevant, being more integrated with what they tell others about the offers or the whole marketing system, and also being more integrated with how they bring relations to a close, the sales system. And we have 274 templates, which also help because you get started faster.
Okay, let's talk about these templates. Like, how does this help? Are these standard operating procedures? Are they worksheets? Give us some examples of this.
Yes, we have 8 types of templates, and some of them are just checklists or swipe copies for emails or spreadsheets. And one of them I will actually share fully with you, and also listeners can grab it afterwards because it's super relevant for right now in the pandemic to stay in the game, really. And so one example is it's a spreadsheet, and it boils down how you can find your blue ocean. Uh, People who have read, I guess most people listening right now have read the book Blue Ocean Strategy. So how can you swim free from competition a little bit, be less comparable so you can get up with your prices, you can have a better position. Now that works, and their examples are all big companies. But does it also work for the small ones? We boiled it down and created a simple spreadsheet that you can use in a half an hour with your team. And if you go through that 5 steps, you will have found your uniqueness, and now you can start acting on it, doing more of what's really your core, your essence, and doing less of everything else, meaning also spending less time, less money, less attention on all these other things. And that's, for example, a spreadsheet.
Mm-hmm. So that's a very cool, helpful template or checklist. What would be an example of something on that checklist that would help the listener go through with their team this process of identifying that blue ocean strategy?
Yeah, so if we deep dive into that, we call it the equalizer tool because it looks like you are a DJ and you are putting more of something here, less of something there, more here, more there. So can I take 200 euros from here and move them there? Oh, if I automate this part, I can take some money from here and put it into there. That's why I call it the equalizer. It's 5 steps. You go into there, you copy the spreadsheet, and then the first things it asks you is, what's your competitive arena? So who are your 3 main competitors? But also alternatives. List the behavioral alternatives of your clients. This is a small difference, but it makes a huge difference. Many people just think about their 3 competitors, but your client doesn't think in that term. For example, if your offer does not exist, what else can they do? From their perspective, hey, Mike, the intern can do it. I can hire somebody to do it. I can do nothing. These are their alternatives. So the competitive arena are your three competitors, you list them out, but also what else can the client do? And so you list that also. And that's your competitive arena. Then the second step will ask you to put in what are they investing in right now? So where are they putting the money? For example, it's in technologies or in data-driven dashboard or in AI. And then you grade yourself in these features. Where you are winning, you give it a 10, and where you're losing, you give it a 1. And then where you're meh, you give it a 4 or a 5 or a 6. So now this spreadsheet will cluster for you, and the output will be, so on the left side, it will cluster where you're losing. You are not winning the game in that field, so cut expenses there. In the middle, okay, you are okay, others are okay, everybody's wiggling around there. Reduce your expenses there. And then on the right side, you will see this is right now where you are winning. You gave it a 10. So double down on that. Take the money from the left side right now in this month, make your budget accordingly, so act accordingly. You are already winning there. That's your uniqueness, and this is where you are winning right now. So don't reinvent things, don't start new things, just double down on this one.
Gotcha. So yeah, I always think it's a silly exercise to focus on your weaknesses to shore them up when you have strengths and you aren't spending time on building up those strengths even further.
Absolutely. So many people right now, and especially in the marketing field, there are so many opportunities, right? You could go and do a LinkedIn reach out. You could do an Instagram push. You could do a 5-day challenge. You can do 100 things, and they all sound interesting and worth exploring. And maybe they are. But you are sitting right now on a gold mine of things that already work. So do them first.
Right. And what would be something for your business that you double down on based on, taking your own advice?
Yeah, we do this every month for around 1 hour. It takes us 1 hour as a team. We go through exactly this one. So we only share the templates that we use ourselves. Otherwise, we don't share them. And so in this month, we did it with our team. And one of our team came up with the idea that we are the only people who have CEO to CEO coaching. I wasn't aware of that. So what happens when you do the equalizer with your team is that you start discussing, okay, who is really the competition right now? What else can your customers do? What do we stand for? And now your team will see things that are absolutely worth discussing. And so this idea for me, for my marketing activities, that was a very valuable idea. And so my colleague said, Simon, we stand for CEO to CEO coaching. Nobody has that. Our three competitors, they don't do that. They send you their junior consultants. They send you people who are 25 years old. And we send CEOs who sold 6 companies for great prices. So that's a key differentiator. And I was like, oh, I was thinking always of speed that as a key differentiator and our templates, etc. I wasn't seeing that thing that was lying there, which is so important. And of course, it changed the way we budget. So now when I hire people to be a sprint coach, I look for different things now. These criteria are now number one, and other things like, I don't know, skills or region or capacity become less important. That it changes all our hiring processes and also our marketing copy.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's great. And when you do these hour-long processes in your own company, do you involve other team members? How many people are involved?
Yeah, so we involve 5 people because we think it's a great group to have between 4 and 6 people in such a session. And so we are 5 people and it takes us 1 hour. If you have more complexity, you can bring in up to 8 people, but then take 2 hours. And especially the first time you do it, take at least 2 hours because you will be discussing fundamentals of your business. And so you will have very different perspectives, or you have to even explain some things to people who are newly onboarded. So first time, at least 2 hours. We are used to it. It's a habit for us. So 1 hour, 5 people, that's what works for us.
Great. Okay. So that's based on a Google Sheet that is a template, and then you save it to your Google Drive. What would be something that is in a different structure other than a Google Sheet out of those 274 templates? For example, do you have any dashboards, right, with Google Data Studio, or do you have any process suite or suite process? Those are two apps, two software as a service tools. Any templates in either of those tools?
Oh yeah, we have the whole suite. And so one of our dashboards is called the weekly update. This is also something that people find really, really helpful. So at the beginning, when somebody sprints with us, the first week is really diagnosing the system. We go through the 11 elements of an invincible company, from vision, strategy, execution, offer, down to sales, marketing, team, mindset, culture, everything. And then we see, okay, where they are, where they see the bottleneck, where they want to move forward. And based on that, we ask them, okay, you can pick now 3 KPIs. Pick the 3 that will tell you 80% of the story you need to know. And now, KPIs, you can have many, but if you just pick 3, usually 1 is about revenue, so number of new clients, number of closed deals. 1 is usually around client happiness, the NPS score, or number of referrals via clients, or number of referrals via colleagues. And the third one is really depending on their niche, on their context. Sometimes it's the churn rate or numbers of deals closed can be really different. If it's a SaaS business, it's usually the churn rate, how many people you lose in this cohort over time. And so with these 3 numbers, we try to have 80% of the story that we need to know. So we need to know, are we going in the right direction at the right speed? And which 3 KPIs will tell us this? And then we help them. It takes, again, around 1 hour to filter out the main 3 KPIs. And then we create a dashboard for them that they will see every 7 days. So 12 times in one sprint, they will update that dashboard. And so you always see where you're heading to. Because I was missing that when I had great business coaches. And they were so influential and key to my journey as an entrepreneur. They were absolutely important. But they never had something that gives me an orientation. Where am I right now? Am I headed in the right direction and at the right speed? So we created it. Yeah. So like you are creating. And
that's awesome.
So it's helpful.
What are your 3 KPIs for your company?
Right now?
Yeah.
So the first one is revenue, number of new clients closed this week. The second one is number of subscribers this week coming into our email service. That's basically our newsletter, but we call it the email service because it should serve somebody, otherwise it doesn't go out. And the third one is number of gigs. And gigs means Simon speaking on some sort of stage. For example, this one is a gig of Simon on a podcast.
Gotcha. Okay. And was this different, let's say, a few months ago? Did you have different KPIs back then?
Yeah, they changed in March and they changed last year. So they change regularly. I would say every 8 to 12 months, we have some tweaks there. And especially when something like the pandemic happens, we have to adapt.
Yeah. And how did you adapt with the pandemic?
First thing was that everything had to be online.
Right.
And we had still some elements that were event driven. So we would have 200 people in a room and use this energy at specific points of the transformation, just to get alignment, to get that energy, etc. So we had to rethink how can we do this completely online. And so we had to really change the product, change some parts of the product, change some parts of fulfillment. Now customer service is 100% remote. That changed the way we hire. Then also because we were not there, we had to think of how can the client get hold of us much quicker. Again, changing the product. So we created something that is like Spider-Man and the chair guy. So they can reach us directly now. Before that, you would have to wait, I don't know, 2 weeks, 3 weeks until your sprint coach flies to your city, and then you have a workshop of 3 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours. All of that is gone, and now you have 24/7 access to your sprint coach, and it's like, yeah, Spider-Man and the chair guy. So right now you have to think, should I kick the left door or the right door? I don't know, what should I do? And you want it now. You don't want 2 weeks later a workshop, right? And so we had to recreate the product in a way that you can have 12, 15, 16 of these moments. In that moment when you need the decision, you need your coach. And not vice versa, right? So we rebuilt also parts of the product.
Yeah. And did you change your pricing as well?
We changed the pricing in the first month. We did a lot of things for free in March and in April. We created a whole mastermind. We didn't change the price, but we did work for free in March and April a lot, just to serve the community, to make sure that everybody has a space where to digest together this thing that nobody knew what's going on, right? So we created a free mastermind for everybody. It was a public mastermind for free every Monday in March, April, and May. And I was there. And it was called Managing What Is.
And you did this for not just your clients, but anybody in your network who heard about it?
Everybody. We had 4 continents in there.
Amazing.
Yes. And you had airlines discussing there with automotive people, discussing with consultants. It was amazing because we were all asking each other, hey, what about your country? What about your sector? And we were frozen. Everybody was frozen, and we were unfreezing during this discussion bit by bit. Oh, hey, I have tried that. I have tried that. What did you try?
Very nice.
They were sharing resources, of course, where to get stimulus, etc. So it was quite a key period of the year, and we wanted just to be there. We wanted to have money off the table and just to be there for the community.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Did you have some really big companies in this process as well?
Yeah, airlines, and they had some big shifts from everything that was flying people was gone, but flying stuff was still there, and so they had to manage this transformation.
Gotcha. And you are connected somehow to, I think, Google Ventures or some VC firm or some really big SaaS companies.
I am. So one thing that I like is joint ventures. I call it growth via collaborations. And we live this. And so once a year, we do a big collaboration with a big partner. So right now, our big partner is Google. Google has a program called Grow with Google. And so they have some wonderful stuff to share in terms of data and tech. And they need a partner that has the SMB knowledge, the entrepreneurial knowledge, and has coaches to really help SMBs grow, especially during this year. So we did a joint venture, and we are sharing our templates and our coaches. They are sharing their audience and their tech. And together we help SMBs grow. That's our main joint venture of this year. I do also small cross promotions with colleagues. I actually went up to 24 per year. So my goal for this year, 2021, is to have 24 cross promotions. I promote colleagues, they promote me in their email newsletter. This is one way, a very elegant, very human, very respectful and natural way of growing audience. Right. So I like what I call growth via collaborations. Just, putting together the resources and making the best for everybody.
Yeah. One example of somebody who's also in the same group that we are in, JVMM, Joint Venture Mastermind, Tom Poland, he was a guest on this podcast, and he does a lot of these cross promotions where he'll team up with somebody often in the group in JVMM, and we'll have them promote his webinar and he'll promote their webinar. And he manages to fill quite a lot of webinars through this joint promotional approach.
Absolutely. So last week I promoted Lisa's book launch from the GBMM. Today I promoted Dov Gordon's webinar, and he's promoting mine. So yes, this is a wonderful way to nurture relationships, but also to create win-win-win situations.
Yeah. Speaking of Dov Gordon, that's a great interview, listener, to check out, because it's pertinent to our discussion here, and Dov is just a super smart, great guy. So I'm curious to hear some template out of your list that is so out of the ordinary and something that you've not come across anywhere else that would get our listener really thinking differently.
That's a great question, because they are all ordinary. The best things are absolutely ordinary. They're simple, and they work over 1,000 years. And so really in the last 17 years, I went from New York to Beijing to consult companies, and I was in the boardroom of the BMWs and of the Boehringer Ingelheim and of the really smart boards. And I have seen some stuff where I thought, oh, this is new, this is exciting. And I got certified, I used it, I did it. But at the end, now, 17 years later, when I watch back, the most impactful things were the simple things. And so the 274 are just the evergreens, the simple stuff, like a competitive analysis, like finding out who you really seek to serve and going deeper, going 5 levels deep. When you share your sales numbers with your people, to really share them in a transparent way every 7 days. Now some people say, let's talk about the sales tracker, because I think that's the most transformative one and the one that gets most resistance in the first week.
Yeah.
So people say, okay, I want to double my revenue. Let's do this. We start with the first week. We do a diagnosis, outcome, 3 sprint goals, 3 KPIs every 7 days. We'll measure. Come week 1, coach says, okay, show me how many discovery calls did you have last week? How many discovery calls will you have next week? And here the resistance starts. Every time. So, my CRM system is HubSpot, and it just tells me that every 30 days. This is just one example, but I could tell you 170 examples every week, and people are really creative in telling us why it's not possible to know all the sales numbers every 7 days. So this becomes the work, because when you have an obstacle, the obstacle becomes the way. Now it becomes the work to see just, okay, where are we? What's right now the flow of information? What are the really important things to know? And these are the important things to know.
Yeah. I'm curious, have you read the book, The Obstacle is the Way?
Of course, beautiful book. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ryan Holiday,
Yep.
beautiful book. And I was born in Rome, so I read Marcus Aurelius and company a lot, and Epicurus, because the Stoic philosophy is actually for entrepreneurs a very helpful, very positive, very simple philosophy. Again, something really, really simple. At the end, it's control what you can control. It's only 3 things. Everything else you cannot control, don't bother.
Yeah. Well, there's the Serenity Prayer too, which kind of is relevant to that idea as well.
Exactly. You see, evergreen, simple, evergreen.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I interrupted you, so please keep going. This is fascinating. So this idea of a sales tracker and getting past the excuses, and then being open and willing to be transparent with your entire team on a weekly basis. I could see how that there would be resistance to that.
Yeah, and at the same time, so the resistance becomes the topic of the sprint conversation, because they have every week one coaching call, and in that call you go exactly there. So in whatever is on their way right now. So on their way in week 1 is always, but it doesn't work for us. We cannot know how many discovery calls we will have next week. Okay, then let's go to a reporting system. Which information do you get reported every 7 days? Which data do you really have? How many people were on your website last week? How many of them are really interested? How many of them are just slightly interested? What's the one action, the one template, again, swipe copy, what's the one template that you have for people who are slightly interested and you will follow up? Do you have a retargeting campaign? What's the one action for the people who are highly interested and they are ready to buy, or semi-ready? They are at 60% readiness to buy. How do you bring them from 60 to 80? What's the one tactic that is automated? They usually don't have it. We create it with them. So we create something that brings people from 60% to 80% ready. And then when they are 80% ready, how do you move them to close? And all these conversations are just triggered by one simple spreadsheet that's called the sales tracker. Number of conversations of last week, how qualified were the lead, how many did you qualify in or out via your filtering system, how many did reschedule, how many did you close, what did you learn?
That's a really important question that I would say is not on most sales trackers, or even if somebody has some reporting system or CRM. What did you learn from that sales conversation that closed or didn't close? That is probably the most important question, isn't it?
Yes. So let's share this with your audience. If you are not a sales pro, but you are doing sales, this is a very important question. First, track the number of calls that you have every week, so that you can get to a reliable estimation of how many you will have next week and next month. This is so important for your cash flow. This is so important for just management of your business, because you really don't have a business if you don't have this info. You just have a great job or a series of jobs. But you have a business when you start getting data and knowing what's coming next month.
Yeah. So that quote comes to mind that I think is actually misattributed. That's what gets measured gets managed. Misattributed to Peter Drucker. I think it was actually a different person who said something slightly different. But I do still love that quote.
Absolutely. And so you want to get to a place where you have reliable sales numbers. And now most people say, but I don't have the data. That's how you start. You start by putting up a simple spreadsheet with these questions. So how many calls did we have? How many were rescheduled? How many did you close? And then you do a small after action review. And that is, what was your goal for that call? No salesperson goes into a sales call without a goal. You know exactly where you want to bring them. The second thing is what happens. So what is the delta between the goal and the output? And the third thing is, what do we learn? So what do we do with it? We either now change the copy on the site or change some technical part or change the sales script. Now, many people say, what is a sales script? I will say it in a moment. So, but what do we do with this learning? What happens now? Because one thing needs improvement right now if you didn't close. And now that we have said what is the sales script, yes, there is a sales script. It doesn't mean that it feels unnatural to talk to your salespeople and they go like robots over questions. On the other hand, it's even, you can be much more natural when you know the flow and you have in your head a blueprint of where you want to bring them. So we teach a 10 elements flow that is the perfect sales conversation. And it starts with specific elements and it ends with the close, or at least a next scheduled meeting in the calendar. But there are 10 things to do, and the order is really important. Again, it's nothing completely new. It's something you would do in a normal, natural conversation you would do anyway. And it feels very natural, but you see these 10 elements because you have the sales script. So you have this blueprint and you know exactly, it's like having a Google Glass and you know exactly where you are going in that moment. You have a GPS for the conversation, and that helps you create a better flow.
Yep, makes sense. Well, I have a sales script myself. I don't follow it exactly, but I do have elements in there that I know I need to incorporate, or if I didn't incorporate, I know I missed it. So for example, I, at the beginning of the call, ask, is it okay if I can record the Zoom call so I don't have to worry about taking copious notes while we're talking? It kind of takes me out of the flow. I'm like, oh yeah, sure. Perfect. So now get that out of the way. I now have a recording I can refer back to in case there was something that I got confused by or I needed to review in order to put a proposal together. Really, really helpful.
Absolutely. We record every single sales call because we want to give feedback to each other. So the whole sales team gets feedback internally. We give each other feedback on the sales technique, and we learn all the time. You can never be in a sales maturity level where you cannot learn. You can always become better, more natural, and just close more. So, for example, we are saying to each other, you were silent just for 8 seconds, but our goal is to be silent for 15 seconds after we say the price, for example. So there are specific moments where you have to be very precise. Like at the beginning, it's just a natural flow, but at some point, and the points are the 15 seconds after you say the price. This is critical because it's all about emotions. Now you are excited, you have to let them steer in that. And then the other part is when you describe the features. Of course, if you're excited about features, you go and start talking spreadsheets, for example. But do not discuss features before you have really clarified their pain points and what they want to hear. So don't tell anything before you don't know what they want to hear. It's like when you go to with your kids to this school event where they all dance on the stage and they show what they can do. So you will be bored most of the time, but then your kids come and you are super alert and super attentive, and then the next kid come and you are bored again and you go.
I can relate to that, yes.
Yeah. So don't make the mistake in the sales call to tell all the features because they don't care. They just care about their one pain point right now. So in the first part of the conversation, find that one pain point.
Yeah.
And that's a probing. We call it probing the sale. You just tell your 3 to 5 main benefits and then ask which one stands out most.
Yeah.
And then they will tell you, oh, it's that. I want to save time. Now you tell only the time-saving deliverables. Then you probe again, and then you go into the time-saving features.
That makes a lot of sense. Reminds me of Taki Moore teaches in his black belt program, which I was in. This is a great mastermind. Taki Moore also was a past guest, so definitely listen to that episode, listener. So what I wanted to share about Taki and his sales approach is he talks about accentuating or stretching the gap. Identify the pain point, then identify the ideal end state, the end goal or outcome thereafter, and accentuate or stretch the gap between those 2 points, so you basically dial up the pain and the urgency. So that makes it a lot easier to make a sale if they're feeling the importance and urgency of the situation instead of downplaying it or brushing over it.
Absolutely. Some people call this inflicting pain. I think that's not accurate because you cannot inflict anything that is not there. So it might be uncovering the pain and exploring the pain, because if you do that right, these couple minutes are so well invested, because 20 minutes later, when you discuss pricing, then that's off the table. That's not so important anymore because you are connected with a much deeper level of truth right there. And then everything else is just a tech detail.
Yeah. It's very good. So can you share an example of a recent situation, a sales call that you had where you learned something? Since you're always taking notes of things that you're learning from each sales call, presumably you're learning all the time still as you continue to hone and refine.
All the time. So every Monday, all coaches come together. Some of them do sales. I'm out of sales. I'm out of fulfillment, and I'm out of sales. And these were the best things that I ever did: fire myself from fulfillment and then fire myself from sales. But every Monday we come together and we coach each other. So the first round is clients. We go through all clients. How is Lisa doing? How is Peter doing? How is Kevin doing? And we go through the 3 numbers of the dashboard. So are the numbers going up or not? Why not? What do we need to build, etc. Second part is then just the sales team, and we give each other feedback. Hey, in that call with Sydney, in minute 2, he said that he is interested about that, and you just kept talking about the other thing. Do you see that? Now let's pause. We go there. We try to find out the body language. How can you find quicker that moment where you disconnect next time? Look at his body language, look at yours. What was happening there? Where is he looking? What did he do with his pen or with his mug in that moment? Find the cues that would tell you. And this is something where we are learning. Every week we are getting better, and we are learning from that, because body language is something, it tells you everything, but you have to learn to read it.
Yeah.
And so we're learning to read it week by week. As a human being, you learn all the time, right?
So is the entire kind of committee or executive team or sales team, are they watching each other's Zoom recordings and identifying those missteps and missed opportunities?
We record all, then we pick some and we share them with the others, and we ask specific feedback. For example, one of us, he was doing sales for Coca-Cola, Rudy, and he gets most requests. So people tag him in Slack and say, hey, look, I had this call with Rio. I'm not sure what to do in the next demo call. Can you please watch minute 3 and minute 18? Or, hey, I was so excited about it. He would be a perfect fit, but he didn't start with us. What did I do wrong? Hey, Rudy, can you give me some feedback. So we always, but it's very specific. It's not just we put them all in a wiki and then we guess. We target the coach inside the team that we want feedback from, and we support and challenge each other. So there is a healthy dose of competition and co-opetition in our team. We want to be better. We want to be better every week, and we want to learn from each other.
Are there individual incentives or group incentives or a combination of both as far as like commissions or bonuses and things like that?
No, and there are no incentives for this. I have a ton of experience with incentivizing sales for singular performance, for group performance, etc. And so after 17 years, and this is because you said Peter Drucker, this is something that Peter Drucker said from the beginning, but nobody's listening to him. He said you have to decouple the performance system from the incentive system. It's two different things. You have to talk performance and you have to talk incentives, but you don't couple these two things. Otherwise, you corrupt the performance system. Because then you don't do things for performance, you do things for incentive. And now you corrupt both systems. So what we do in our team is that we have decoupled these things. There is a commission on every closed deal, of course. And that's a high one, and that's a good one, because we want to pay better than our competitors, so to have the best salespeople. But for everything else is decoupled from incentives, because either we have a culture that says we support and challenge each other, or we don't. And if we don't, we have another problem.
Gotcha. And so what do you do when you come across a client who has those performance and incentive systems intermingled and corrupting each other?
How much time do we have? Stories, and especially the corporations. There you go. But in small teams, this usually doesn't happen that much. Do you have simple systems for incentives and just basically monthly wages and project-based fees? And in the sales team, I would say that the simplest solution is just pay per closed deal.
Mm-hmm. So a mix of base salary plus a commission, or commission only, or mostly base salary and a little bit of commission? Like what's the right mix?
Every team has to find their mix, but keep it simple and observe how the culture is shaped by it. I want to have a good culture, and I will accept nothing that corrupts it.
Mm-hmm. But isn't the salesperson then incentivized to close a deal at any cost, even if it's not, it will be not a right fit client, and perhaps that will end badly? They'll not refer other business, or maybe be a detractor in
Yes.
NPS terminology?
Absolutely. Great points. That's why we have two things going on. First one is the NPS. And so every 30 days, every client gets asked the NPS questions.
Which stands for Net Promoter Score, for those listeners who aren't familiar with that.
Yes. So we ask every 30 days, every client 5 questions. What's working well right now in the sprint for you? What's missing? What's not good and we need to improve? What else do you need? How likely is it that you recommend these strategy sprints to other entrepreneurs? From 1 to 10. These are our 5 NPS questions, and we do really well with them. Every 30 days, all clients, and we track the number. Every 7 days, we discuss that number. The second thing, how to make sure that the salesperson doesn't sell to the wrong person just to get the commission. This is really important. So that's why we have introduced a guarantee. Our sprint clients, they get 100% their money back. So, and that is tied to the commission. So if you sell to the wrong person, that person will get their money back and no commission.
Yeah, we'll claw back your commission.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense.
Makes
Now, the NPS score, those 5 questions, there's only one question that is the question. From my understanding of NPS, the company that acquired my previous company was big into NPS, and that question was, how likely are you to refer a friend, colleague, client, prospect, whatever, to our company on a scale of 1 to 10? And one thing that surprised me about that is anybody that is, let's say, a 7 is not an advocate for you, even though that's a pretty high score out of 10. That is actually, is that a detractor yet, or is that just neutral? I forget where the cutoff is for detractor.
7 and 8 are neutral. 6 is a detractor.
6 is a detractor, and you think, wow, 6 is
Are
not
promoted.
bad, right? But that's terrible.
Terrible. So it goes from -100 to +100. So if you think Harvard, the University of Harvard right now has an NPS of 35. Now, that's not a bad university, obviously, but people could be happier if they get out of the university with less debt on their shoulders. So that's why 35. But 35 is not even a bad NPS. So 40, 50, 60 are great NPSs. And if you are in the 70s, like Apple, you are a rock star. An NPS of 70 is amazing. And exactly as you said, the only NPS question technically is, how likely is it that you refer us from 1 to 10? But of course, if you have the chance to have a conversation with a client and you care about them, why just ask that?
Right.
We want to know, how can we become your partner even more? How can we help you win right now? Of course, right? We care. We are partners in growth.
So what would be an example of a client situation where those other questions that you're gathering of the 5, the ones that don't really feed into the NPS score, where there was some powerful insight that allowed you to pivot and save the account or really propel the client forward?
So this is really the gold mine for me. I read every single one, and we have an automation that goes out to all sprint coaches and even to the marketing team and to the sales team, because it's so relevant. For example, the word, every single word that they are using, go on your website and double check your words and their words. Are these words similar? Are you using these words? If we are not, then we put their words on our website. Because, for example, I say the equalizer tool, but they say something else. So that's such a relevant information. I go to the landing page of the equalizer tool. I change the copy because that's their language. That's how they speak. That's how they Google it.
Right. So if they're saying sales dashboard and you're saying sales tracker, that is a disconnect. And they're not, for one thing, they're not going to come across your website. Probably if they're Googling for sales dashboard, you're not using that terminology, but also they're feeling less relatable and relevant to you, and vice versa, if they're reading your copy and it's not using their terminology.
Exactly. And I have a simple rule for myself. So I read them all. And if something comes up once, I forget it. If it comes up twice, I act on it. So twice, it becomes, for me, it's a pattern. And so it becomes the new copy. It becomes the new name of the tool.
So what's an example where you made that change?
One example on our website was I was fiddling around. I'm so bad at copywriting. I'm right now hiring copywriters, and so I was fiddling for 3 hours on a simple landing page, and I had created such a complicated, convoluted soup of words. And then my colleague saw it and said, Simon, just tell me, like you would tell a friend, what is this? And then I told, and he said, why don't we just write this? And I said, okay. I wrote it down. And then he said, also, what are our clients saying? Let's go to the NPS. We went to the NPS, and there it was there. It was so simple. They said, I want to save time via your proven templates. And so I had, I think, 60 words that I just cut out, and I just said, save time with our proven templates. And that's now our copy.
Yeah, that's pretty compelling. Good job. Cool. And are you getting really sophisticated with this stuff using AI to write your sales copy, or playing around with that sort of stuff, or using AI to help build templates, or otherwise optimize your processes?
Oh, that's funny. That's for me something that I'm just right now learning. So yes, I'm playing around with AI. There is this Chrome extension that I use. It's called Copy AI. I use it for short things like how to name a YouTube episode or something like that. I could use it also for bigger stuff. And I was playing around the last weeks. But right now, I asked people in our mastermind for copywriting colleagues. I am thinking of really getting pro copywriters in and have a much more professional level of copywriting, because I'm learning right now how important copywriting is.
Yeah, it is very important. And it's not just copywriting, specifically sales copywriting is an art, and very good sales copywriter is very expensive. Yeah, there's actually a new AI tool for copywriting developed by David Rogenmoser. I forget the name of the tool, but it's in private beta. I forget the name of it. I'll have to dig it up and I'll include it in the show notes. But yeah, it really intrigues me, the idea of using an AI to write sales copy that's as good as Gary Halbert or John Caples. It's coming. It's inevitable. AIs will replace most of our jobs, but is it available yet? I don't know about that.
The Chrome extension that I'm using has, of course, they have access to everything that's out there in the internet. So their intelligence is not comparable to a single person writing, because they are scanning thousands, millions of patterns at once.
Right.
There is some potential there. On the other side, I prefer having a bad email, but it comes from my heart, and people forgive, my audience really forgives punctuation problems or misspellings, but they recognize when I say keep rolling, or hey sprinters, today this happened, they know, oh, that's Simon. It comes from a place that they know it's our real connection.
Yeah, it's authentic.
It's authentic. So I think it's both. How can we tap into this collective intelligence of the internet, but how can we keep our essence and our intention and our connections from the heart?
Yeah. Very good. Well, heart-centered leadership and building a business that cares and adds value and reveals light is what I'm all about, and I appreciate that you're about that too.
Absolutely. Especially in this time, it's all about connection and all about the right place from the heart.
Yeah. Awesome. So if somebody wanted to work with you, our listener wanted to go through your program, your 90-day sprint process, how would they contact you guys and get the ball rolling?
strategysprints.com, and then there are some nice buttons that you can click and you land on our calendar and we talk. especially the equalizer tool. So if you want to try it out, half an hour, it's a free template. You can go to strategysprints.com/tools and grab it there.
Okay, and we'll include a link to that in the show notes for this episode as well. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Simon. This was fascinating, and I loved the specifics that you provided, and using your own company as the guinea pig so that we could see how these tools and processes enhance a business. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much. Keep rolling.
Keep rolling.